John Wick Chapter 4 has me so conflicted. Honestly, very, very conflicted. Because on one hand, it has the best American action sequences that we've ever seen, probably in an American movie, that rivals other country movies when it comes to action. Thinking of like the Raid films and things like that. And you can see foreign things that are influencing it, like anime and video games. On the other hand, after all the action, the deaths, the violence, and the excitement, by the end, I felt a bit empty. And so I'm going to be talking about in my review of John Wick Chapter 4. Let's start with the premise. Price on his head ever increasing, legendary hitman John Wick takes his fight against the high table global as he seeks out the most powerful players in the underworld, from New York, Paris, to Japan, to Berlin. Let's start off with the good. So most movies are split up into three storytelling acts, where there's the beginning, middle, and end, and it has some story, and it has action in between to set up the next story plot. But this movie is different. It has three distinct action set pieces with a little bit of story to get you from one action set piece to another. And it's 2 hours and 45 minutes of non-stop, over-the-top, ridiculous anime-like video game action. We get wrestling, kung fu, gung fu, car fu, which I never seen before with cars and things like that. Was absolutely insane. The first action set piece in Osaka is probably most action movies' third final act. That's how amazing the movie starts off. It gets bigger, more zanier, more violent as the movie progresses, and also has a tribute to Hotline Miami with over-the-top view, and I thought that was absolutely breathtaking. And this movie has more comedy in this film than the whole first three films, because this movie leans into the more goofier, zanier aspects of John Wick, the world that they were building out, and it really benefited from it. There's a specific action set piece, which is the best action set piece in the film, in the third act in Paris, when they go to Paris, that there's a really funny physical gag that happens that had my whole crowd roaring from laughter, and I couldn't believe they pulled it off. It was so funny. Donnie Yen plays a blind assassin, kind of felt a little bit like Daredevil from the Netflix series, but just turned up just a bit. And he's an old friend of John, but is after him because the high table has his daughter. And he has the most varied action in the film, and I think he gives the best performance. I think he was the best actor in the film. He executed the action sequences perfectly, because obviously we know Donnie Yen is a legendary martial artist when it comes to film, and he really grabbed me when it came to the emotional moments. He played a blind guy really well, and we know he already done it before when he did it in Rogue One. He was just really a standout and fantastic, and I really want to see him in more American films. Shamir Anderson plays the Tracker, my new favorite addition to this franchise. Tough as nails, funny, resourceful, cunning, and he was also after John Wick, but only under certain conditions, which gave a little bit more depth to his character than he would have before. He also had one of Halle Berry's dogs that she had in the third film, but the dog has so much more personality in this film and was used in such different ways that was distinct and so funny. And Scott Adkins plays Killer, and a mob boss that they see in Berlin, and he chews up the scenery. This was a really great performance. He might have saw him in the trailer where he has the weird gold teeth and the fat suit. Well, it looks like a fat suit, I'm pretty sure it is. And he does a great job of just standing out in this film, and with his weird accent, the line delivery, and then when he gets into the action, he does a really great job, because you know, everybody, if you're part of a John Wick movie, you're gonna have to do most of your action sequences, and he did all that really great. He brought a lot of levity to the film, and just felt really dangerous at a certain point after he was finishing being the butt of the joke. Since John Wick came on the scene, we've seen a lot of older male action movies come out, whether it's, you know, I think Taken may have been before this, but we got Nobody, and we have a bunch of other copycat films that are about older men, a certain set of skills, and be able to take a bunch of people out. What sets John Wick apart is the filmmaking. This movie, like my friend that I went to go see this with said, looks way better than it has the right to be. This movie took up the cinematography, the sound, the action, everything up to another notch. The stunt work is a masterpiece on itself. I couldn't believe some of the things that they pulled off in this film. It was really mesmerizing and just insane action throughout the film. This is what you're coming to see the film for, the action. And that's usually what you come for in John Wick films, but it's even more here because it's less story and just more bonkers balls to the walls action. And the set pieces that they chose were used really well. The neon lights in Osaka, the bright strobe lights in the UK clubs, and the smoky streets of Paris. They really made each part seem distinct, so you know, like, you're in a different part of the world, and it didn't feel like we were just in the same stage. I gotta give big props to John Stahelski about the way he directed this film. Dynamic camera work with swooping shots throughout the action, really getting in there. No shaky cam or hard cuts. You can really see everything that was happening, and he got really creative, not only with the action itself and directing it, but the way it was filmed. Like I said, that Hotline Miami that's not the only way that was cool. It's just other different things, and the way he built up tension for certain fights. Like, he knew when to go fast, he knew when to stop and build tension between certain people and just keep things dynamic and not stagnant. Now let's get to the bad. So one of the things that bothered me about the movie was that in the first 3 John Wicks, the action was stellar. It was crazy, but it had a little bit of realism to it where you would see John get wear down throughout the movie. In this film, the action was so over the top that it almost felt kind of like a parody of what people think John Wick is. When we got to a certain point, it was kind of getting ridiculous how much punishment he was taking and not looking like he was hurt. Like, you don't see the wear and tear over time on him at all. It was like he was a superhero at certain points, and it just really felt off for me, especially being a big fan of the first 3 films. And while the set pieces in the movie were absolutely amazing, I think that some of it went on just a bit too long and kind of just felt a little repetitive in terms of what was happening in the moment, with John kind of doing the same moves over and over and over in certain ones. Especially, I really felt it in the Osaka, Japan set piece, that first one. And it really gets you exhausted by the end of it because it's just action, going, and barely any story. And I know, we don't go to John Wick for a story, but what made those first 3 films stand out from other action films was the world building, the relationships he had with other characters, and what was pushing him forward. We don't get a lot of that anymore. The world building is almost all gone from this film, which made the movie for me stand out. And I'm excited for the sequels and the prequels and the spin-offs that we were getting. And it just really focuses on only the action and the little moments we get in between to fill in the gaps of story to get him to the next place weren't executed in a way that was very interesting to me. I gotta say, 90% of the performances here were really, really good at on point. But Bill Skarsgård, who I'm a very big fan of, was just not good here as the high table representative named Mark Cheese, or I'm not too sure exactly how to pronounce his name. Is supposed to be French. And on top of that, he had this terrible French accent for like 90% of the film. I did not understand why they made that creative choice to make him speak in a French accent. If he can't speak in a French accent, I don't know if it was supposed to be like funny or something like that, because they had a little bit of goofiness in this film, and I don't know if that was what they were going for, but the character was played so seriously that I never got that that's what it was supposed to be. And eventually I got used to it towards the end of the film, but at that point, like, every time he spoke, it kind of took me out of the film a little bit. Like, why is he speak? Why did they do this? Why did they make that choice? And on top of that, he just did not chew up the scenery. If he had that accent but chewed up the scenery and really played into the character and made him interesting, I would have never even really cared, because I thought he was an interesting villain. But he was really boring for me as a villain or antagonist in this film. Donnie Yen was a lot more interesting as one of the main antagonists, and I wish he was more the antagonist here instead of Bill Skarsgård, because this is one of the performances from him that I just did not expect him not to do well. And also, surprisingly, I wasn't too fond of the ending. I don't know if it was the execution or the lack of story building up to the moment, but I don't want to say too much. But I just turned to my friend when the credits hitting, and I looked at him and I was like, that's it? Really? That's where we're ending off? That's how we're doing this? It just really left me feeling a bit empty inside. And, after such an amazing, exciting ride for like 2 hours and 40 minutes, that last bit was just like, okay, like it just felt like everything was for nothing. Let's get into my verdict. So if you want a non-stop, over-the-top thrill ride in the theater, and I definitely think you should go see this in the theater if you're interested in it, you should definitely check this out. This is an action movie on a whole nother level. Maybe the best action we've ever seen in any movie, period. This is not hyperbole. I've seen a lot of action films. I'm being serious. When you see the action in this film, it's gonna blow you away. If you're somebody that wants a little bit more meat on the bones, a little bit more story, a script that's a little stronger with a little better dialogue as well. I forgot to bring up that the dialogue was. I'm not a fan of John Wick. Like the first 3 movies, you're probably not going to be a fan of this. This is more of the same, but bigger and less story. So just be aware if you're going to go see this, because it's getting a lot of good word of mouth. And if you're interested in go seeing it, just have that in mind. But overall, how I feel, I had so much fun with this film. It was such a blast to see. For someone that has wanted like video game and anime action to be brought to life in live action, this is some of the closest that we've gotten since something like, I don't know, like Man of Steel in 2013, because of how crazy it is. Obviously, it never gets to that level. They're not superhuman, but some of the stuff he was doing and getting over felt superhuman. So I really, really enjoyed the action. I really liked a lot of the characters, and I really, really enjoyed parts of the 3rd act up until the ending of the film. So I wanted to love this, but I do like it, and I still think it's a great film, even despite all the flaws that I had. So with that said, I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4 a B+. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate John Wick Chapter 4? Let me know in the comments below how you feel about the film and how you feel about my thoughts. And if you've not seen the film yet, are you going to check it out in theaters, or which I recommend, or are you going to wait for streaming? Let me know all your thoughts. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified my other reviews, reactions, ranking lists, and live discussions. You can watch more of my content right now.